The HOA president destroyed my family at our baby shower. One moment, my pregnant wife was laughing and opening gifts. The next, she was lying motionless on the ground, blood pooling around her. Our guests screamed. I couldn't breathe. My wife wasn't moving. Our baby still inside her, 8 months along. Everything perfect turned into pure horror within seconds. That woman took away our happiness, our safety, our future. But justice came. She's rotting in prison now, sentenced to life. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. The champagne glasses clinked together as laughter filled our backyard. Pink and blue balloons danced in the gentle spring breeze. My wife Sarah, 8 months pregnant with our first child, glowed with happiness as she unwrapped tiny baby clothes. Her hand rested protectively on her swollen belly. I stood beside her, camera in hand, trying to capture every perfect moment of our baby shower. Then I heard the screaming. This is unacceptable. You are violating HOA regulations. Margaret Henderson, the HOA president, stormed into our backyard like a tornado of rage. Her face was red, twisted with fury. Her finger pointed at our decorations like they were weapons of mass destruction. Ma'am, we filed for permission 3 weeks ago, I said calmly, walking toward her. We got approval for the baby shower. I don't care what paperwork you filed, she shrieked. These decorations are an eyesore. Your cars are blocking the street. Your guests are parked incorrectly. Sarah stood up slowly, her hand supporting her back. Margaret, please. We invited you. You're welcome to join us. We have plenty of food. I don't want your food. Margaret's eyes were wild now. You people think you can just move into this neighborhood and do whatever you want. You have no respect for the rules. My jaw tightened. You people. I repeated. What exactly do you mean by that? Margaret's lip curled. Sarah and I were the first black family to move into this predominantly white neighborhood 6 months ago. From day one, Margaret had made our lives miserable. She reported us for leaving our trash cans out 15 minutes past collection time. She complained that our grass was a 1/4 inch too high. She sent us violation notices for having a welcome mat that was the wrong shade of brown. But we had dealt with her pettiness with patience. We followed every ridiculous rule. We documented everything. We smiled and stayed calm. Because we wanted to build a life here. We wanted our baby to grow up in this house, in this yard, climbing that oak tree. I mean, people who don't follow the rules, Margaret hissed. Now take down these decorations immediately or I'll fine you $5,000. The party ends at 6 p.m., I said firmly. Our permit clearly states we can have decorations up until then. It's only 3 o'clock. Sarah's sister, Jessica, appeared beside us. Ma'am, you need to leave. You're disrupting a private event. This is HOA property. Margaret screamed. Everything within the neighborhood boundaries is subject to HOA oversight. Our backyard is private property, I corrected her. You're trespassing. Margaret's face went purple. She pulled out her phone and started taking pictures of our guests, of the decorations, of Sarah's belly. We'll see what the board says about this. We'll see who's trespassing when I have you evicted. You can't evict us from a house we own, Sarah said quietly. Her voice was steady, but I saw her hand trembling on her belly. Margaret, please. Just leave us alone. We've done nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. Margaret laughed, a harsh ugly sound. You exist in my neighborhood. That's what's wrong. Our neighbor, Tom Davis, stepped forward. He was an older white man, retired military, who lived 3 houses down. Margaret, that's enough. These folks haven't done anything to deserve this treatment. You need to leave. Margaret whipped around to face him. You're defending them? After everything I've done for this neighborhood? What have you done except make everyone miserable with your petty rules? Tom shot back. Half the neighborhood is afraid to check their mailboxes because of you. This ends now. You'll regret this, Tom, Margaret hissed. All of you will regret taking their side. Another neighbor, Patricia Chen, stood up with her toddler on her hip. We're not taking sides, Margaret. We're standing up for what's right. You've harassed this family since day one, and we've all seen it. It needs to stop. Margaret looked around wildly, seeing that the crowd had turned against her. Even her few allies looked uncomfortable. Her empire of fear was crumbling right before her eyes. The words hit like a slap. Our guests had gone silent. Everyone stared at Margaret in shock. Even she seemed to realize she had gone too far. Her eyes darted around at the witnesses. Get off my property, I said, my voice low and dangerous. Now. Margaret's mouth opened and closed. Then she turned and stormed toward the gate. But before she left, she spun around one more time. This isn't over. I'll make you regret the day you moved here. The gate slammed shut behind her. Sarah collapsed into her chair, tears streaming down her face. I knelt beside her, taking her hands. Baby, don't let her get to you. She's just a bitter, hateful woman. I'm so tired, Marcus, Sarah whispered. I'm so tired of fighting. I just want to have our baby in peace. Is that too much to ask? No, I said fiercely. It's not too much. And we're not going anywhere. This is our home. But Sarah's tears wouldn't stop. Her shoulders shook with sobs that broke my heart. Jessica brought her water. Our friends gathered around, offering comfort. But the joy of the day was shattered. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned, one hand always on her belly. The baby's kicking so much, she murmured. I think she knows Mama's upset. I smiled. We don't know yet. I know, Sarah said softly. It's a girl. I can feel it. And I'm scared, Marcus. I'm scared of bringing our daughter into a world where people like Margaret exist. People like Margaret have always existed, I said, pulling her close. But people like us exist too. Good people. Strong people. We're going to raise our daughter to be fearless. To stand up for what's right. To never let hate win. Sarah kissed my cheek. I love you. I love you more. The next morning, I woke to find an envelope shoved under our door. Another violation notice. This one claimed we had excessive noise during the baby shower and unauthorized vehicle parking. The fine was $8,000. I called our lawyer immediately. He assured me the fine was baseless, that we had every approval we needed. But he warned me that Margaret could make our lives hell with frivolous complaints and legal fees. Document everything, he advised. Every interaction, every violation notice, every threat. Build your case. I started a file. I installed security cameras around our property. I wasn't going to let Margaret drive us out of our home. 2 weeks passed. Tense, quiet weeks. Margaret walked past our house every day, glaring at our windows. She took pictures of our yard from the sidewalk. She measured the height of our grass with a ruler. But we ignored her. We focused on preparing for the baby. Sarah's due date was 3 weeks away. We painted the nursery a soft lavender. We assembled the crib. We washed tiny clothes and folded them into drawers. Then came the second baby shower. This one was smaller, just Sarah's co-workers from the hospital where she worked as a nurse. Only 8 women, gathered in our living room, playing silly games and eating cake. All the decorations were inside our house. All the cars were properly parked. I was in the garage, organizing baby supplies, when I heard shouting. I ran inside to find Margaret standing in our living room. She had walked right through our unlocked front door. "How dare you have another party without permission," she screamed. "Get out of my house," I yelled. "You can't just walk in here. This is HOA business." Margaret shrieked. "I have a right to inspect for violations." "No, you don't." Sarah stood up, her face flushed. "This is breaking and entering. I'm calling the police." She reached for her phone. Margaret lunged forward and slapped it out of her hand. The phone skittered across the floor. Everything seemed to move in slow motion after that. Sarah stepped back, startled. Her foot caught on the edge of the rug. She stumbled. Her pregnant belly threw off her balance. She fell backward, hard, her head hitting the corner of the coffee table with a sickening crack. "Sarah!" I was on my knees beside her in an instant. Blood pooled beneath her head. Her eyes were unfocused. Her hand clutched her belly. "The baby," she whispered. "Marcus, the baby. Call 911. I screamed at Sarah's coworkers. They were already dialing, voices panicked. I pressed my hand against Sarah's head wound, trying to stop the bleeding. Her skin was so pale. Too pale. Margaret stood frozen, her hand still raised where she had slapped the phone away. Her mouth hung open in horror. I didn't mean. "Get out!" I roared. "Get out before I kill you." She ran. The ambulance arrived within minutes, but it felt like hours. The paramedics carefully loaded Sarah onto a stretcher. I rode with her, holding her hand, whispering prayers I didn't know I remembered. At the hospital, they rushed her into emergency surgery. A C-section. The baby was in distress. Sarah had a severe concussion and brain swelling. I sat in the waiting room, my hands covered in my wife's blood, and I shook. I shook so hard I thought I might fall apart. Jessica found me there. She had rushed from work the moment she heard. She held me while I broke down. "This is my fault," I sobbed. "I should have installed better locks. I should have gotten a restraining order. I should have protected them." "This is not your fault," Jessica said fiercely. "This is Margaret's fault. Only hers." 3 hours later, a doctor in scrubs approached me. His face was grave. "Mr. Williams. Your wife is out of surgery. The brain swelling was more severe than we initially thought. She's in a medically induced coma. We're monitoring her closely." "And the baby?" My voice cracked. The doctor's expression softened. "Your daughter is alive. She's in the NICU. She's very small, only 4 pounds, and her lungs aren't fully developed. The next 48 hours are critical." A daughter. Sarah had been right. "Can I see them?" "Of course." I saw my daughter first. She was so tiny, lying in an incubator, tubes and wires attached to her fragile body. Her skin was translucent. Her chest rose and fell with the help of a ventilator. But her little fist was clenched tight, like she was already fighting. "She's a fighter," the NICU nurse said gently. "Preemie babies are tougher than they look." I pressed my hand against the incubator. "Hey, little one. I'm your daddy. Your mama's going to be okay. You both are going to be okay. I promise." But when I saw Sarah in the ICU, my heart shattered. Her head was bandaged. Machines beeped around her. She looked so small in that hospital bed, so fragile. I pulled a chair beside her and took her hand. "I'm here, baby. I'm right here. Our daughter is beautiful. She has your nose. You need to wake up so you can meet her." The police came that evening. 2 detectives who took my statement with grim faces. They had already arrested Margaret. Multiple witnesses had seen everything. They were charging her with felony assault. We're recommending attempted murder charges as well, Detective Rodriguez said. Given that Mrs. Williams was pregnant and that the assault resulted in life-threatening injuries to both mother and child. Good, I said coldly. I want her to pay for what she did. The next 48 hours were the longest of my life. I divided my time between Sarah's room and the NICU. I talked to my daughter through the incubator glass. I read her stories. I sang her lullabies that my mother had sung to me. On the second night, her oxygen levels dropped critically. Alarms blared. Nurses rushed in. They worked for 20 minutes to stabilize her while I stood helplessly outside, watching through the window, tears streaming down my face. They saved her. But the doctor warned me that her lungs were very weak. Any infection could be fatal. On the third day, Sarah woke up. Her eyes fluttered open. She looked around, confused and frightened. I grabbed her hand. Sarah. Oh God, Sarah, you're awake. Marcus. Her voice was barely a whisper. What happened? Where am I? You're in the hospital. You had an accident. But you're going to be okay. Her hand flew to her belly, now flat. Her eyes went wide with panic. The baby. Where's my baby? She's here, I said quickly. She's in the NICU. She's fighting hard. She's beautiful, Sarah. She's so beautiful. Tears spilled down Sarah's cheeks. I want to see her. I need to see her. You will. As soon as you're strong enough. I promise. But Sarah's recovery was slow. The concussion had affected her balance and coordination. She had severe headaches. She couldn't walk without help. It took 5 days before doctors cleared her to visit the NICU in a wheelchair. I wheeled her to our daughter's incubator. Sarah pressed her face against the glass and sobbed. She's so small. She's so tiny. Oh my baby, my sweet baby. She's getting stronger every day, I assured her. She gained 2 ounces. She's breathing a little better. What's her name? Sarah asked. We never decided. I had been thinking about this. Hope. I want to name her Hope. Sarah looked at me with tears in her eyes and nodded. Hope. Yes. Hope Williams. It's perfect. We had a small naming ceremony right there in the NICU, with just the 2 of us and the nurses. Sarah couldn't hold Hope yet, but she reached through the incubator ports and touched her daughter's tiny hand. Hope's fingers wrapped around Sarah's pinky. She knows me, Sarah whispered in wonder. She knows her mama. Meanwhile, Margaret's legal troubles grew worse. The prosecutor added attempted murder charges. The HOA board voted unanimously to remove her as president and revoke her membership. Her husband filed for divorce, horrified by her actions. But I didn't care about Margaret. I only cared about my wife and daughter surviving. Hope spent 6 weeks in the NICU. 6 agonizing weeks of setbacks and small victories. She developed an infection that required antibiotics. Her weight dropped before it started climbing again. She had breathing episodes that terrified us. The first time Hope stopped breathing, I was alone with her. Sarah was getting an MRI for her head injury. The alarm on Hope's monitor started screaming. Her oxygen saturation plummeted. Her tiny lips turned blue. Nurses rushed in within seconds. They repositioned her, adjusted her ventilator, stimulated her to breathe. I stood frozen against the wall, watching my daughter fight for her life, completely helpless. She's okay, the nurse told me once Hope was stabilized. This happens with preemies. Their brains sometimes forget to tell their bodies to breathe. That's why we keep them monitored. But I couldn't shake the image of my daughter's blue lips. That night, I couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. I just sat beside her incubator, watching the monitors, terrified the alarm would sound again. Sarah found me there at 3 in the morning. She was in her wheelchair, having rolled herself down from her room 2 floors up. "Marcus, you need to rest," she said gently. "What if something happens and I'm not here?" I whispered. "Then the nurses will handle it. They're trained for this. We have to trust them." She took my hand. "We can't fall apart. Hope needs us strong." She was right. But strength felt impossible when your newborn daughter was fighting for every breath. The infection came in week 3. Hope's temperature spiked. Her white blood cell count was dangerously high. They started her on broad-spectrum antibiotics immediately, but it took 3 days to identify the specific bacteria. Those 3 days aged me 10 years. Every hour, I expected a doctor to come with bad news. Every time a nurse entered with a serious expression, my heart stopped. Sarah prayed constantly. She wasn't particularly religious, but desperation makes believers of us all. She prayed to God, to the universe, to anyone who might be listening. She made bargains and promises. "Please," she whispered over Hope's incubator. "Please let my baby live. Take anything from me. My career, my health, my life. Just let her live." I held Sarah while she broke down, while she sobbed out her fear and guilt and rage at the unfairness of it all. Our daughter shouldn't be fighting for her life. She should be safe at home, full-term and healthy, sleeping in the nursery we'd so carefully prepared. But slowly, gradually, Hope grew stronger. The ventilator was removed. Then the feeding tube. She learned to drink from a bottle. She gained weight, ounce by precious ounce. Sarah was discharged after 2 weeks but returned to the hospital every day. We practically lived in that NICU, taking turns holding Hope during her scheduled cuddle times, changing her tiny diapers, giving her bottles. The other NICU parents became our family. We celebrated every small victory together and comforted each other through the scary moments. Those bonds forged in that bright, beeping room would last forever. Finally, after 6 weeks, the doctor said the words we had been praying for: "Hope can go home." We cried. We laughed. We thanked every nurse and doctor who had cared for our miracle baby. We strapped Hope's car seat into our car with trembling hands and drove home at 15 miles per hour, treating our daughter like the most precious cargo in the world. Our house had been transformed while we were at the hospital. Our friends and family had organized. The nursery was complete. The refrigerator was stocked. Flowers filled every room. But the best surprise was the neighborhood. Our neighbors, the ones we had barely met, had organized a silent welcome home. No party, no noise, just a street lined with signs that said, "Welcome home, Hope," and "You are loved." I looked at Sarah as we carried Hope inside. She was crying again, but this time from happiness. "People are good," she whispered. "Despite everything, people are good." Margaret's trial took place 4 months later. Sarah and I both testified. So did every witness from that horrible day. The video from our security cameras showed everything clearly. The courtroom was packed. Our neighbors showed up to support us. Sarah's co-workers from the hospital filled an entire row. Even Tom Davis and Patricia Chin testified about Margaret's pattern of harassment. When it was my turn to testify, the prosecutor asked me to describe that day. I looked directly at Margaret as I spoke. My wife was 8 months pregnant with our first child. We were celebrating with friends and family. Margaret Henderson burst into our home uninvited. She assaulted my wife. Because of her actions, my daughter was born 2 months premature. She weighed 4 pounds. She couldn't breathe on her own. She spent 6 weeks fighting for her life in the NICU. I had to pause. The memories were overwhelming. Sarah squeezed my hand from the gallery. My wife suffered a traumatic brain injury. She was in a coma for 3 days. She had to relearn how to walk. She still has seizures from the damage. Our daughter has chronic lung issues that may affect her for life. All because this woman couldn't control her hatred. Margaret's lawyer tried to argue it was an accident, that she never intended to hurt anyone. But the prosecutor presented evidence of Margaret's long history of harassment. He showed the threatening messages she had sent. He demonstrated a pattern of escalating violence and racial hatred. Text messages were read aloud. Messages where Margaret told other HOA members that she would get rid of those people by any means necessary. Emails where she fantasized about teaching them a lesson they'd never forget. One neighbor testified that Margaret had told her, "If the law won't remove them, I'll handle it myself." The evidence was damning. The jury deliberated for only 3 hours. Guilty on all counts: attempted murder, aggravated assault, felony child endangerment. Hate crime enhancements. The jury deliberated for only 3 hours. Guilty on all counts: attempted murder, aggravated assault, felony child endangerment. The judge sentenced her to 25 years to life. When the sentence was read, Margaret collapsed in her chair, wailing. Her lawyer tried to console her. But all I felt was cold satisfaction. Justice had been served. Sarah and I walked out of that courtroom hand in hand. Hope was in her stroller, now 5 months old, chubby and healthy, with curious brown eyes that took in everything around her. "It's over," Sarah said. "It's finally over." "Yes," I agreed. "Now we can move forward." But the trauma didn't end with the trial. Sarah developed PTSD. Loud noises made her jump. She had nightmares about that day. She became overprotective of Hope, terrified of letting her out of her sight. We started therapy, both individual and couples counseling. It helped. Slowly, painfully, we began to heal. Hope grew into a happy, curious baby. She smiled easily. She laughed at everything. She didn't know about the darkness that had marked her entry into the world. She only knew love. On Hope's first birthday, we threw a party in our backyard. The same backyard where everything had started. But this time, it was filled with friends and neighbors who had become family. People who had supported us through our darkest days. I stood with Hope on my hip, watching Sarah laugh with Jessica. My daughter grabbed my nose with her chubby hand and giggled. I kissed her forehead. "Your mama was right," I whispered to her. "People are good. The world can be cruel, but love is stronger. Always remember that." Hope babbled something that sounded almost like words and patted my cheek. Later that night, after Hope was asleep in her crib, Sarah and I sat on our back porch. The same porch where Margaret had first intruded. But we had reclaimed this space. Reclaimed our home, reclaimed our lives. "Do you ever think about leaving?" Sarah asked quietly. "Moving somewhere else? Starting over where there are no memories?" I considered it. Sometimes. But then I think about what that would mean. It would mean Margaret won. She wanted to drive us out, and if we leave, she succeeded. Even from prison, she would have won. So we stay. We stay, I confirmed. This is our home. Hope's home. And no one gets to take that from us. Sarah leaned her head on my shoulder. "I'm glad. Because I love this house. I love this neighborhood. I love the life we're building here. Even after everything." "Especially after everything," Sarah said firmly. "Because we survived. We fought. We didn't let hate win. That matters." I kissed the top of her head. "You're amazing, you know that." "We're amazing," she corrected. "All three of us." 2 years later, we got a letter. Margaret had been denied parole. She would serve her full sentence. The parole board cited her lack of remorse and continued attempts to justify her actions. I read the letter and filed it away. Margaret was part of our past now, not our present. Hope was 3 years old, starting preschool, fearless and bright. She climbed that oak tree in our backyard just like I had dreamed she would. She made friends easily. She asked a million questions about everything. She didn't know about Margaret. We would tell her someday, when she was old enough to understand. We would tell her about the hate that had tried to destroy our family, and how love had triumphed instead. But for now, we let her be a child. Innocent, happy, free. Sarah went back to work at the hospital, helping other families through their darkest moments. She said it gave her purpose, helped her heal, to turn our trauma into something meaningful. I changed careers. I became a lawyer specializing in HOA disputes and housing discrimination. I helped other families fight back against harassment and illegal tactics. I became the advocate I wished we had from the beginning. Our story made local news, then national news. We received hundreds of messages from families who had faced similar harassment. People thanked us for speaking out, for fighting back, for not staying silent. We used our platform carefully. We spoke at community events about tolerance and unity. We advocated for HOA reform and stronger protections against discrimination. We turned our pain into purpose. On Hope's 5th birthday, we received an unexpected visitor. Margaret's ex-husband, David Henderson. He stood on our porch, nervous and apologetic. "I know I have no right to be here," he said quietly. "But I wanted to apologize. For my wife's actions, for not stopping her sooner. I should have seen the signs. I should have done something." Sarah and I exchanged glances. "Would you like to come in?" Sarah asked. Over coffee, David told us his story. How Margaret had become increasingly paranoid and hateful over the years. How he had made excuses for her behavior, minimized it, enabled it. How he was in therapy now, working through his own complicity. "I've sold the house," he said. "I couldn't live there anymore, with those memories. I'm moving to another state, starting over. But before I left, I needed to apologize. To take responsibility for my part in this." "Your wife made her own choices," I said. "You're not responsible for what she did." "No," David agreed. "But I'm responsible for not standing up to her. For staying silent when I should have spoken. That's something I have to live with." He pulled out an envelope and handed it to Sarah. "This is from the sale of the house. I want you to have it. For Hope's education. Or medical expenses. Or whatever you need. It's not enough. Nothing will ever be enough. But it's what I can offer." Sarah opened the envelope. Inside was a check for $50,000. "David," she said softly. "We can't accept this." "Please," he said, and his voice broke. "Please let me do this one thing. Let me help undo even a tiny fraction of the harm my family caused. I'm begging you." I looked at Sarah. She looked at me. Without words, we communicated. This man was suffering too. He needed to make amends. Who were we to deny him that chance at healing? "Thank you," I said finally. "We'll set up a college fund for Hope. And we'll always remember that you came here today. That you took accountability. That matters." David's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you. Thank you both." After he left, Sarah and I sat in silence for a long time. "Do you think people can really change?" Sarah asked. "I think people can try," I said. "And that's what matters. The trying." Hope bounded into the room then, covered in finger paint from her art project, grinning wildly. "Mama! Daddy! Look what I made." She held up a painting. It was abstract, chaotic, beautiful. Bright colors swirled together without order or pattern. "It's wonderful," Sarah said, pulling Hope into her lap despite the paint. "Tell us about it." "It's our family," Hope announced proudly. "This is you, Mama. And this is Daddy. And this is me. And these are all the people who love us. See? There's so many. She was right. The painting was full of colors, layered and mixed together. A visual representation of our community, our support system, our chosen family. It's perfect, I said, my throat tight with emotion. We'll hang it right here in the living room. That painting still hangs there today. A reminder of what we built from the ashes of tragedy. A reminder that love multiplies while hate divides. Hope is 8 years old now. She's in 3rd grade. She plays soccer. She loves to read. She wants to be a doctor like her mama. She's everything we dreamed and more. She's also been diagnosed with asthma, a result of her premature birth and underdeveloped lungs. Some days are harder than others. We've rushed her to the emergency room 3 times when her inhaler wasn't enough. Each time, I'm transported back to that NICU, watching her struggle to breathe. But hope doesn't let it stop her. She carries her inhaler everywhere. She knows her limitations but refuses to be defined by them. Last year, she insisted on joining the soccer team despite her doctor's concerns. I want to play, Daddy, she told me with fierce determination. I'm not going to let my lungs tell me what I can't do. She's her mother's daughter through and through. Sarah still struggles too. The traumatic brain injury left her with chronic migraines and occasional seizures. She had to give up her nursing career, the job she loved, because the unpredictability of her seizures made it unsafe for her to care for patients. It broke her heart. I held her the day she submitted her resignation, her tears soaking my shirt. I wanted to help people, she sobbed. That's all I ever wanted. You do help people, I reminded her. You help me. You help Hope. And you can find other ways to make a difference. She did. Sarah now volunteers with support groups for families of premature babies. She mentors mothers going through NICU stays. She turns her trauma into purpose, helping others navigate the same dark waters we once drowned in. Sometimes she asks questions about why she was born early, why she has a small scar on her chest from the NICU procedures. We answer honestly, age-appropriately. We tell her she's a fighter. That she's always been strong. We don't tell her everything yet. That will come later. But we've taught her about kindness. About standing up to bullies, about treating everyone with dignity regardless of their differences. Last week, she came home from school upset. A boy in her class had made fun of another student for wearing a hijab. I told him to stop, Hope said angrily. I told him it's mean to make fun of people for being different. And when he wouldn't stop, I told the teacher. Sarah and I looked at each other with pride. You did the right thing, I told her. I know, Hope said matter-of-factly. Because being different isn't bad. Being mean is bad. Right? Right, Sarah confirmed, pulling our daughter into a hug. That's when I knew we had succeeded. Not just in surviving. Not just in getting justice. But in raising a child who understood that hate must be confronted, that silence enables harm, that love requires courage. Margaret is still in prison. She'll be eligible for parole again in 3 years. When that hearing comes, we'll be there to testify. To ensure that justice continues to be served. But we don't think about her often anymore. She's become a footnote in our story, not the main chapter. Our story is about survival. About resilience. About a family that refused to be broken. On quiet evenings, Sarah and I still sit on that back porch. Hope plays in the yard, climbing her tree, picking flowers, chasing fireflies. We watch her and hold hands and remember how close we came to losing everything. We made it, Sarah says sometimes. Against all odds, we made it. We did, I always agree. And we're going to keep making it. Every single day. Because that's what love does. It survives. It adapts. It grows stronger in the broken places. It transforms tragedy into triumph. Our daughter will grow up knowing this truth. She'll know that the world can be cruel, but that cruelty doesn't get the last word. She'll know that justice exists, even when it takes time. She'll know that family isn't just about blood but about the people who stand beside you when darkness falls. And she'll know that she is loved. Fiercely, completely, eternally. That's the story we're writing now. Not a story about a hateful woman who tried to destroy us. But a story about a family that refused to be destroyed. A story about hope, in every sense of the word. Our hope, our beautiful, brave, brilliant hope. She is our happy ending. Our new beginning, our proof that light will always overcome darkness, given time and courage and love. This is our story. And it's far from over. The best chapters are still being written, day by day, moment by moment, in the laughter of a child who doesn't yet know how close she came to never existing. But she does exist. She thrives. She shines. And that, in the end, is the only victory that matters.